It is about 1 o'clock in the morning, and my podcast is still awake. I was laying in bed watching Dark City, quite possibly one of the best movies of all time, and only really overlooked because it came out at the same time The Matrix came out. And for some reason, The Matrix proved to be this incredibly popular movie. And I'm not saying The Matrix wasn't fun, but if you really think about it, The Matrix was kind of stupid, right? Whereas Dark City is just a good movie. Like every part of it's good. The acting's great, everything's great, right? So, given the choice of watching, and no offense to Saint, Keanu of the puppy, but patron saint of puppies or whatever. But yeah, Dark City is a better movie than The Matrix, right? I think another reason I'm having a hard time tonight is I watch Double D's show, as I often do, because hey, I'm a fan of Double D. Double D's a good guy. I remember when he was like just starting out, and I was like, this guy is a good guy. I like this guy. I like the cut of his jib and all that, right? And the degenerate that he talked about tonight on his show, I think actually kind of emotionally bothered me because it was like, I think what it did is it brought back some really bad memories because the guy's talking about running a triple X game for like his wife and her friends. And because they hang out and apparently talk about sexy time books and, on their girls' night outs and stuff like that, right? Well, I, of course, dated a girl that was very much like that. She liked to read all the weird books, like The Taming of Sleeping Beauty or whoever the hell it was, and, all of that. And she liked to have girls' nights out too. And she knew all the terms and the lingo that I didn't, being a naive guy that I am. And she was also effing around on me like big time. Who knows? Who knows? 3 or 4 guys. Chad, and Tyrone, and maybe even Justin and Jeremy. Who knows? They were all hitting that shit, right? And I'm watching this guy talking about, the list they gave him of sexual acts. And he's all like, I don't even know what this is. And I didn't know. Like edging? The hell is edging? I don't know what edging is. I mean, like, yeah, hey, how you doing? Yep, I can't sleep. It bothered me. It's like I used to work in lawn care for a little bit when I was young because, I like money. I like money. And yeah, edging to me is when you take the edger and you edge the sidewalks and everything, right? So edging on this list is apparently something else, and I have not looked it up. But I'm just sitting here looking at this doofus talking about, how his wife gives him all these terms. And I'm like, you idiot, you gotta know that she's going out on her girls' nights out. They are going out and just getting freaking tore up. And she's probably coming home to you because you're safe. You make some money, you give her some security. Maybe even you're raising one of her boyfriend's kids or multiple of her boyfriend's children for thinking they're yours. It was like and again, I'm not blaming Double D, but the person he was commenting on, it was just so insulting to like mankind. And specifically, I should say male kind, because it's like, it's like, dude, why are you so dumb? It's like, you're my age, you know. Your wife's going out. She's like hanging out with this group of women, and all they do is apparently sometimes throw axes, and the rest of the time just sit around and talk about triple X stuff. That is weird, man. And I think being confronted with a person who is a D&D creator or whatever, just so degenerate in nature. Yeah, I mean, literally, and again, I'm not blaming Double D, but that shit was so cringy, I think I hurt my back. I think I literally cringed so hard that I might have thrown a disc out or something, Not really, but yeah. It's like, this man, honestly, if I were him and I'd made such a cringy video as he did, I would be considering writing my final haiku, perhaps asking Hungar if he would be my second, and maybe, you know what I mean? I joke, I kid, but I mean, that's how cringy it was. It was hard for me to watch. It's like I was watching it, and I literally, like right now as I'm talking to you guys, I literally kind of wanted to throw up, And also, and I think this has to do with the fact that I married a Danish woman that's very conservative and never, ever, ever talks about sex in front of anybody. You know what I mean? She's very, very ladylike, right? And would never even consider that sort of thing, right? And it's like him talking about his wife and all of the shit she's talking about. It was just like mind blowing to me, it's just like, oh man, so weird, just so strange. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's 5e. That's 5e, And the thing is, as a young man who played D&D, even through the hard times, when I was going through all my puberty and everything like that, at no point did we ever pull any kind of crazy shit like this guy's describing. I mean, seriously, I think if somebody tried that sort of shit in my game group, they would get kicked out of the game group. If they'd been like, hey, I want to like seriously explore, some sexual theme or something, like everyone in the game group would have been like, get the hell out of here. What is wrong with you? It's just not, this is not something we do. It's not something we do or ever will do, and as long as I've ever been a DM, it's always been fade to black, If one of the players picks up a tavern wench and decides to take her upstairs or to a hayloft or whatever the hell they're doing, fade to black. They can imagine whatever they did amongst themselves. Nobody needs to hear that shit. Now, am I kind of a prude? Yes. I remember I've told this story before. Guys coming into the station house and bragging about, the sexual proclivities and the stuff they'd gotten up to with their girlfriend or wife. And I had to put an end to it. Sadly enough, I had to be like, look, stop. Because one, I don't want to know, right? Because I don't want every time that I'm out at a firefighter event, because we all used to go to Christmas parties and all that. I don't want to be sitting across from the table of with your wife, thinking about, the fact that she likes it this way or that way or the other way or whatever. I mean, that's just like not stuff I want to know, and these guys that want to tell these stories, I'm just like, no, we're not doing this. You know what I mean? Don't tell me stories about your girlfriend or your wife. I mean, it got so bad at one point, I told a guy, "Is like, are you trying to convince me to go over to your house while you're on a different shift and maybe, see for myself? I mean, what are you doing? Advertising? This is crazy, right?" But anyway, back to the thing. Yeah, it was just, again, do I blame Double D? No. I blame the guy in the video. That guy in the video should be ashamed of all of his life choices. He has made some very serious bad ones. I guarantee, like I said, he is the guy they named that single chair in a hotel room after. Because there's no way he's not just completely cucked. There's no way. No man who isn't just completely cucked would ever put up with that shit. Like my wife, I'm not trying to act like a badass, but you know what she don't ever do? Girls' night out. Don't happen. There's no girls' night out. We've been married 20 years. If you want some of your female friends to come over and you want to hang out and play board games and drink some wine, knock yourself out. But am I going to have my little blonde wife hanging out in a bar or some shit? No, it's not happening. You should have done that shit before you got married. But now you're married. And now I'm telling you, no. And I'm lucky because she would never want to do that anyway. Because she's just not a very social creature. But yeah, I'm telling you right now, these girls that are doing their girls' night out bullshit, nothing good can come of it. Nothing good. At the end of the day, you will find out that it was an excuse for them to go out and get boned by randos while you're sitting home with the kids. So that guy, and like I said, I was in a situation very, very much like that in my life for a little while. So watching that guy talk about it, it actually hit me pretty hard, Agreed, Jeff. Nobody needs to know about any bullshit like that. That shit gets faded to black. Not sometimes, every time. Now, can there be sex in the game? Of course there can. But we're not going to talk about it. One, my old crusty bearded ass, right? If you're one of the guys sitting at my table, are you really wanting me to take on the role of the tavern chick that you're trying to bang and then like go all out on that? That is weird. That, it's like, why am I, because I can't do voices. What am I supposed to do? Like try and do a female voice and be like, "Oh, take me, my lord, blah, blah, blah. I'm removing my," yeah. I mean, it's just weird. It's just weird. Like what I just did just now is some weird, cringy ass shit. And I can't imagine anybody doing that like in real life. But guess what? Today I learned that, yeah, Bigfoot exists and people do that. About drove me to drinking. If I could have found my vodka, I would have. Yeah, if I could have found my vodka, I would have drank myself into a stupor after seeing that stupid shit. And for the third time, no, I'm not blaming Double D. It's not his fault. He saw something he thought was interesting. He didn't know anything about it. He had not watched the video. And then it was just like, oh my God. This is this is like exactly. It's like, I mean, what word would you use for that except that's kind of gay, you know? Like you're sitting around the table. I mean, my table, I've got 3 women and then like 4 guys. But you're sitting around the table. Let's say it's going to be a guy because the women are generally like pretty conservative about these things. Like, you know, my wife, her character, she says has a boyfriend or is betrothed. So she stays away from any of that. And, you know, so it would definitely be somebody, maybe even Hungar, trying to pick up a barmaid. Now, if we were the kind of weirdos where we were actually going to play that encounter out, that would be almost incestuous because me as the DM pretending to be the lady, he's, you know, sexing up, and he being my brother in real life, and like getting into like details of all kinds of crazy ass shit, like whatever the bicycle position is or whatever. And it's like, you know, I just can't think of anything worse. Honestly, that's like a level of hell. I say that as I'm sitting here painting up some. How you doing, Daniel Barry? Artillery witches for Hungar's heretic force, since you know he decided he would do a heretic force. Even though in the course of the thing I did a heretic force too, but I decided to do trench ghosts. He decided to just do a straight up, you know, heretic legion army. So, and of course, the thing with the heretic legion in this game is, you want your artillery witches, you really do. Now that gets back to something we were talking about with Double D had said about don't buy games from people who hate you. This is a weird situation. Hey, what's up, Crano? Because the actual guy who does all the artwork is a relatively conservative guy that went to college, university at a church ran school. So, you know, I haven't seen him writing up anything about, you know, how much he hates Trump voters or whatever. And then the idiot that did the rule set, while he is very much anti-Christian in his beliefs, he is a hardcore metalhead and conservative, like extremely conservative in his voting. Oh, you're watching. Oh, yeah, that Double D's live, I'm assuming. Oh, my God. It's like, no, thank you. No, thank you, good sir. You are a friend of mine as far as online goes. If I ever meet you in public at a con, I will buy you a beer. It will be a Yingling because that's the only kind of beer I buy. Because why? Because America, that's why. But so yeah, these guys don't actually hate people, but the people who run their Discord do. So it's a good idea to stay off their Discord because the idiots that they let run their Discord are like the worst kind of people. Meanwhile, the actual creators behind the game, they're not that bad. I mean, the one guy is a Finnish black metal aficionado who is conservative by nature and, like Varg, has some problem with Christianity. And he's like, I guess, more into like the Norse paganism thing. Because, you know, that's a thing that some idiots do. So I don't feel quite so bad about, you know, painting their figures and stuff, since They're not quite as diametrically opposed to me as, say, Wizards of the Coast, but that doesn't make them my favorite either. You see, Jeff, you're like the only human being I know of to ever play that game. I mean, I bought that game a long time ago and tried to get my players interested, and they were like, no. After it took them like 3 hours to just try to make characters, yeah, I'm sure that was not the game for us. And I'm not trying to say that as a slight to the game, but the players were just like, nobody wanted to actually choose anything. They had analysis paralysis, to quote Sean. They were so worried that if they put a point anywhere in the wrong spot, their character would just be ruined forever. And it turned into just a fiasco. Just a fiasco. So we ended up playing Traveler, which was a lot better since they had pretty much zero control over how their character turned out. Since, as you know, in Traveler, you guys roll random dice and kind of hope that you roll high enough to get what you actually want. Otherwise, you just get what you get, and then you, when it comes to the system, I'm a sadist. Yeah, like somebody said during that stream, that dude on that stream, he's the kind of guy that would play Fatal. You know what I mean? And I have never seen the book in its actual solid form, but I have seen the PDF. And let me tell you, the person who wrote that role-playing game should, if he's not on a list and people are telling him he has to stay, more than like 500 yards away from schools and shit, he should be. Because there is nothing in that role-playing game that is like good. It's like every part of that role-playing game is bad. There's nothing in it that's good. I mean, the idea that you're doing like bodily orifice circumference rolls and, because, we got to see how far your, back orifice can stretch. And it's like, why in the hell would I ever need to know that in a game? But that's in that game for real. For real. Is like the guy who wrote that game is sick. He has got some issues. And hopefully you got help. I mean, I don't know who he is or anything, but I hope you got help for his problems. Hey, Shark, how you doing? Semper Fi, sir. Varg is a lolcow. Yeah, the thing with Varg is I haven't seen him on X lately, but back in the day on Twitter, that dude and me would go round and round just every single day. It was just non-stop because he'd start talking shit about Christianity or whatever, and then I'd start telling him he's an idiot, and it would just go from there, And now, do I own a copy of his game? Yes, I do. I do own a copy of his game based on the fact that someone that I respect their opinion said, check it out. You might like it. It's actually pretty cool. And, I mean, it's like, nah, I'm not going to run it. But you know what? You can't even tell that the guy who wrote that game is an idiot because it's just a fantasy role-playing game. Oh yeah, Jeff, for real. That's what's got me up. Plus, It is almost done. I got to cut those nubbins off that one side and then screw in the 4x1 boards that are going to go all the way around it, forming a wall. Plus, by doing that, it'll make it really rigid. And once that's done, I'll go ahead and start putting the actual pink foam. You can see the trench on the one end, but there's going to be 2 foot by 4 foot of basically no man's land with like blown out areas. I actually bought STLs from this website. I think I broke my chair, guys, leaning on it. You hear that? It's broke. Of like just rotting bodies and skeletons and just piles of corpses and stuff. So I'll be 3D printing all of those up so that I can paint them up. I'm not going to glue them to the board, but Double D's thing, man. Crano Double D had the cringiest person that, you know how Double D likes to watch other people's videos, and we all do it. I mean, like I kind of made my start making fun of Garrity. I'm kind of bored of it now because it's just like, honestly, between you and me, I think it's all a put on. I think Gary's like a pro wrestler, and that's his persona. Gary the maniac or some shit. And in real life, it's like he's like Mick Foley, and on the internet, you're seeing Mankind. But in reality, he's just a nice dude that's, hanging out. But this guy, Double D, had on, and I blocked his name out, was so cringy. It was hurting me to watch it. And it was making me feel bad because it was like, I always want to support my bro. Double D's been on my show a couple times, said hello, whatever. And, we get along great. He's a good guy. I like him. As far as I know him, But I was having a hard time watching the show. Because I was just like, oh my God, this guy is so freaking cringe. But like I said, I'll tell you again for the new guys, I dated a girl when I was in like my late 20s. And she was just like the way this guy described his wife, like going out with her friends all the time, reading all those basically pornographic books, like The Taming of whatever. The vampire lady wrote under a pen name, and it was basically just an S&M book. So think 50 Shades of Grey, pretty much, but back 20, 25, 30 years ago. And that woman that I dated turned out to be one of the biggest whores I've ever dated. And seeing this guy describe the exact same pattern of behavior, I was just like, how are you so stupid, bro? If your wife is coming home from her girls' nights and she's talking about sex acts and shit that you never even heard of, you have a problem. Now, he can handle it however he wants. I know me, because of my faith and everything, I would be out of there. And just in case, before one of you guys who don't know says anything, yes, Jesus himself said in cases of infidelity, if you can't forgive the other person, divorce is absolutely on the table. You know what I mean? Which is why the Roman Catholics with their divorce is just simply not allowed. No, that's not what it says. He says in cases of infidelity, you can, part ways. And I've done it, you know. I mean, we should have known. We should have known we were in for some bullshit when, like, his screensaver was protect trans kids. You know what I mean? Because it's like trans kids. Before we can protect trans kids, you're going to have to prove to me that trans kids exist. Because it is my opinion that any supposed kid that's claiming to be trans, the first thing that should happen is that kid's parents should be investigated for abuse. Because sexual dysphoria and stuff like this, not that I know, but my wife does have a degree in psychology. So I'll go ahead and lean on her degree for a second. I mean, there you go. There you go, Crano. Yeah, exactly, right? Lord have mercy, right? But the whole idea of like a 9-year-old just waking up one day and deciding they're trans, that's not a thing. That's because a 9-year-old don't know, you know, like hell, when I was 15, I hadn't even started thinking about sex. I was a late bloomer, I admit it. When I was 15, me and my little brother, Hungar, the one that I always, even though I've got like 5 brothers, I always hung out with Hungar. We were in the side yard playing with Star. Anyway, when I was 15, I wasn't out running after chicks. I wasn't worried about my sexuality. I wasn't. I was playing with He-Man and Star Wars toys and GI Joe on the side yard. You know, like none of this had even like it just wasn't even a thing that anyone even thought of back then, you know, this weird idea. Exactly. Well, that's what they want. That's what they want. They want you to celebrate their sinfulness because the Bible's very clear. If you celebrate someone else's sinfulness, then you become as guilty of that sin as the original perpetrator. So, in that way, one person demanding everyone celebrate their sin can actually damn multiple people. You know, and most people who don't really know theology, or they're part of a weak, you know, Protestant church that's willing to bend the knee and all this and that. You know, they don't even know what's being done to them. They just go along with it because that's kind of what Americans do, you know. It's like I saw this one thing. Yeah, I mean, this is getting a little off topic, but I guess this guy was driving down the street somewhere and he saw a Baptist church. Of course, it was the First Baptist Church because, you know, they all are. And it had a giant rainbow flag hanging off the front of the church. And this guy stopped and just started going off, right? And they came out, and I'll tell you what, they were talking, and it was all on camera. And the people from the church were it was like there was a guy there, older gentleman, but you could tell that he was trying to be, I felt like he was trying to be intimidating, like physically intimidating. You know what I mean? And, you know, and I was sitting there thinking, man, what would I do, you know, in that situation, which I know, you know, I'd warn them not to get within my space because if you get within, you know, my little area of comfort, then, you know, will be going to jail, I guess, depending on where you are. In Florida, probably not, but in a lot of places, 100%. Now, eventually, the street preacher who had just come out of nowhere and jumped their shit, he won them over. Not really. I think he just bitched at them so much they agreed to remove the flag. And then later, lightning struck the steeple of that church and it burnt to the freaking ground. And I got to say, okay, like, all right, that's a thing. But it's like, yeah, it's like, when I was a little kid, because I was not always Orthodox, I'm a convert. Everybody knows this. I'm a convert, right? The Baptists were like the most hardcore of all the Protestants. It was like, you always heard about the fire and brimstone Baptists. They're, strong fundamentalist Baptists keep the faith and refuse. Right. And that's how they all were when I was a little kid. So seeing this supposed Baptist church embracing such a thing, I mean, I was kind of even like, that's weird, because you grow up in Eastern Kentucky. Guess what? Unless you're willing to drive to London or Lexington, guess what kind of churches you're going to go to in Eastern Kentucky? Baptist or Pentecostal. That's pretty much the only churches there are there. Baptist, Pentecostal. And I have, on occasion, because I have friends, been to services with these. And I will admit, I'm not a huge fan of the Pentecostals. Did you get censored? You shouldn't have. If you did, it wasn't by me. But bear in mind, I have had to open up my phone and watch my own chats to see when YouTube auto censors people. Because YouTube, not that I've set anything up, I have not. I don't even think I have any words that I've banned. But YouTube will automatically ban certain words and phrases. And, like, I've tried to make jokes about certain things. Like, say I'm going to buy a, what's it called? I'm going to give somebody some money and send a chat, right? And YouTube won't let me do it because something in my paid for chat is a word that Trump is your mama. Yeah. Trump is 100% your dad, Legiosia. Enjoy it, sir. They finally got rid of the corpse that they've been dragging around the White House for the last 4 years, and you finally have an actual man in charge doing things. I mean, you gotta love it when the vice president makes like one of the European assholes cry. I mean, isn't that the best? Doesn't that give you like a warm feeling? And they're like, I believe maybe we do not share the same. No, we don't share the same stuff. Why? Because we're better than you. That's why. I mean, I guess I am being a dick. I'm sorry. The United States of America is absolutely 100% better than any country in the EU. 100%. It's not even close. And if you're like, well, why do you think you're better? I said, well, rights. The fact that in my gun safe, I have an AK-47 and it's legal because I can legally do that and you can't. Because your government took away all of your rights. And like a bunch of pussies, you guys let them do it. Didn't even argue, just fell right in line. And every time one of your governments comes up with some new law that's 100% guaranteed to F you guys over, you don't even resist it. You just immediately step right into line like a bunch of freaking sissy boys. So, yes, Trump is your daddy. JD Vance made half of your leaders cry like little girls. And we are just better, definitively, observably, in every other way than all of you. So, yeah, be mad. I enjoy it. I literally am empowered by the tears of liberals. Your anger just strengthens me and makes me happy. So the madder you get, the happier I am. So there is that. And I know it's very unchristian of me, and hopefully God will forgive me, and maybe he won't, and I'll just go to hell. But I cannot force myself to have sympathy for people who choose to be victims. They choose to be weak. Shark, you're right. That went through. Echelon. Why would they ban you saying echelon? That is weird. Trump. Yeah. But yeah, that guy. Yeah. Trump is going to drag you to hell. Now, drag us to hell. What? What are you even talking about? Do you even hear how dumb you sound, Legion? I mean, can you even imagine how stupid you sound? Trump is going to drag me to hell. How's he going to do that? Exactly. Let's not have any of the emotional arguments here. Show a little logic. Show a little logic. Tell me exactly how. Because so far he's talking about giving us all money back based on the fact that if you actually work and pay taxes, like my wife and I do, we may get some money back from all the corruption that they've been finding and everything. And if you are an American, I have to ask you, how can you be against auditing the government and finding all the money they've been wasting for all these years? How can you be against that? Like in good conscience, how can you be against that? How could any human being be against warp speed? Was Obama, homie. You got to get your shit together. That was Obama. But yeah, so like I said to you, how are you against the fact that they're trying to clean up the government and save Americans money? But then again, Legion, I don't know if you're American. You might be one of those pussy ass Eurotrash people, for all I know, you know. Or you could be a snow Mexican. Trump is, Christ is king. BS. Yeah, BS. That is a brilliant argument. That's a brilliant argument. Yeah. No, Lightspeed was 100% under the Obama administration. You're probably, I don't know, maybe, what are you, 12? You're just about old enough to be up at night. I'm guessing too, because it's like 1 a.m. where I am, that you're probably, like I said, Eurotrash. And, you know, you're bored because you got sick and tired of getting your ass whipped at League of Legends and decide to come on and say random stupid things. And if that was your goal, you're doing amazing. Great job, homie. No, it does not. No, it does not. That's like these idiots trying to say that the plane that crashed in Canada is Trump's fault. Because, Trump is in charge of the Canadian freaking air control and everything. And Trump was in charge of hiring all the people who were on the plane, too. I mean, obviously. You guys are like, it's like the people who sit around blaming Trump for everything that ever happened. It's ridiculous. Oh, warp speed. You're talking about the COOF, aren't you? Warp speed. You're talking about the COOF. Well, I will admit this. The first term of Trump, he made some mistakes because he listened to people he shouldn't have listened to. It's simple as that. Came for the fatal talk, stayed for the Trump badging, right? It's like, no, I will say, though, that the guy that Double D had on his show, if anybody, like, in real life, legitimately probably has owned and played the fatal game, it's that guy. Yeah, 100%. 100% it's that guy. Definitely. There's something not right with that guy. Because Trump and his buddy Bill Gates. Yes, his buddy Bill Gates. That's no. See, here's the thing that's kind of amazing. The deep state does nothing but lie and attack Trump for 4 years. And yet, retards like yourself still want to blame Trump for everything that happened without blaming any of the people who did everything they could to lie, stymie him. I mean, why aren't you on here talking about Schiff and the Russiagate thing? I mean, yeah, Trump will be anybody's friend. I mean, he's down here in my home state. I should actually go to Mar-a-Lago one day and see if I can't, like, just hang out, like, pay the money to go into the golf course and just be like, what's up, man? Order myself, like, a nice gin and tonic. Maybe I could see Trump and Elon hanging. Maybe I could interest them in a game of old school essentials, Like I could be like, hey, if you guys ain't doing anything, I'll run you through this adventure, And who knows? Maybe Trump might be all like, I'll play the game, but only if I can play a wizard. And it has to be the best wizard ever, like no one has ever seen before. I can't do a Trump accent really good, but Trump and Epstein Island, not a thing at all, Legion. Now you're just lying. Stop lying or I'll just ban you because it's easier. Trump never went to Epstein Island. Trump turned over on him and shine his boots. I would love to. But then again, I'm a retired veteran and shining a superior's boots does not offend me at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. Invite Elon to. Here's the question, curious. What character type do you think Elon would play? And I'm talking old school, not 5e bullshit. What would Elon play, though? Yeah, go get the jab. It'll fix your Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. Don't mention Clinton and Epstein and the fact that Clinton's wearing a dress in a picture with Epstein. It's like Trump says, hey, here's what's going to happen. Big Balls and Elon and crew are going to edit all of this shit, and they're going to find out where all the money is going. And the Democrats and their lackeys, who aren't smart enough to figure anything out, freak the fuck out. Just freak out, right? Well, let me drop a little bit of info on you, Mr. Legion or whatever. If somebody says they're going to try to find crimes and corruption, the people who start freaking out are probably guilty of crimes and corruption, right? Elon is not going after you. He's not going to steal your freaking social security number. He probably would already have it anyway, since, remember, he owned PayPal, right? He's got 4 plus or 40 plus, how many billions of dollars that idiot has. He is not interested in stealing your stupid money. I did. It was absolutely hilarious. The one I seen, they had Ben Shapiro was the DM. And Trump was a wizard. And I forgot what Obama was. Elon was like a fighter or a barbarian or something. And Sleepy Joe was there. And they were all just effing with each other. But hey, how about the church scene, since you hate Trump so much? How about the church scene when Trump walks up and starts talking to Obama, and Obama's laughing and grinning, and they're just like buddying up and shit? What's with that? Man, to be a fly on that wall, right? Maybe Trump just walked up and said, hey, I know you've been running the country for the last 4 years. You can take a break. You and Big Mike can go do some shit somewhere else, because you know, me and my boys got that. And here's the other thing. Freaking Democrats all mad that Trump's their daddy. But you Democrats really should be happy, because this last election, the Democrats won. Trump was a Democrat his whole life until he became a Republican a while back. RFK, I believe, is still a registered Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. Who else? Elon Musk was a Democrat. Who am I forgetting, guys? Anyway, so Trump rides in an office with, you know, massive approval from the people. Because if you're not one of the people, no one gives a shit what you think anyway. And everybody's like, oh, evil Republicans and all this shit. And I'm laughing because I'm like, dude, half of the people he picked for his cabinet are Democrats. So what's your problem? You know what I mean? And it's so funny, too, how everybody loved RFK right up until they didn't. You know, it's like, we love RFK. RFK's the best. Blah, blah, blah. But as soon as RFK was like, hey, thinking about jumping on this Trump train, all of a sudden, all of the Democrats decided they hated RFK. You know? Because, oh, man. Evil RFK. He's bad. So, yeah. I guess in the end, what I'm saying is Democrats like to pride themselves on being the more educated bunch. But just because you manage to set through a couple classes down at the community college or whatever, that doesn't make you smart. It just means that you're good at sitting and having your empty head filled with stupid shit because you don't actually think for yourself. And secondly, you can't tell when you know people are actually trying to help you. You're so ideologically captured by these corrupt people, you know. Like, you'll go after Trump, right? But not mention a word about the fact that Why are so many of the Democrats multimillionaires? I mean, I'd love to hear somebody answer that damn question. How did that happen? How did all these Democrats who make a couple $100,000 a year, which is honestly not that much more than my wife makes, how did they all become, millionaires 10 to 100 times over? If you think about that for a second, not that, I mean, I'll try and give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you are capable of thinking. But if you just let that resonate through your brain for a minute, maybe you'll realize that the party you've been backing is the party of corruption, skullduggery, and ripping your stupid ass off to pay for shit like transgender bullshit in Ireland. Oh, yeah. Of course, Trump's not perfect. Yeah, not the right kind of Dems, because, and I'm not saying there aren't Republicans that are at least as equally corrupt. Trump ain't one of them. I mean, the last 4 years he was in office, he lost net worth. He lost money. Being president cost him money. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi sets her ass in Senate or Congress or wherever she is for 5 decades, and she's got $200 million. Oh, AOC, $17 million net worth, and she's a bartender. It's like, what? And the Democrats seem like they hate Trump so much that they can't see like normal shit that's just in front of you. It's like your whole party is full of multimillionaires. It's like almost every single Democrat in Congress and Senate is a multimillionaire. How'd that happen? Well, I can tell you, USAID was one of them, because it was, basically a giant slush fund that was just slipping money to them under the table in the name of other bullshit. Oh, well, Joe Biden got super rich. That's the big guy. I mean, he was getting paid by Ukraine, Gazprom, China. Obama and that idiot managed to set Ukraine up for a war. And anyone who doesn't believe that, they need a history lesson on how U.S. aid was used to finance the Maidan coup, which is the thing. You know how you got everything before and everything after a point in time? The Maidan coup is the point in time where the war with Russia was inevitable. As soon as they got rid of the elected official and replaced him with the CIA plant, Zelensky, war with Russia was inevitable. And like I always tell people, I am constantly amazed at how nice the Russians are being in this war. Because if they were fighting Chechnya or something again, like the last time they went to war with the Chechens, they leveled every building in that country. I mean, there wasn't a brick sitting on a brick by the time they were done, And the Chechens are way better fighters than Ukrainians, which is why, thankfully, they're fighting for the Russians in Ukraine. So, all right, say what you want. It's just like, to me, it's just kind of like super lame. If you're going to claim you hate Trump, but your reason for hating Trump is stupid. It's like, does the guy have faults? Yes. Yeah, he's got many faults. There's a lot of shit you could go after him about. Maybe I mean, he shouldn't have been quite so whatever when he was young when it come to the women. I mean, if we're going to try and judge somebody, I'm not trying to judge anybody, but if you're of a mind that you want to judge the man, you could, but at the end of the day, my question would be, but why? Why would you even want to? It's almost like stupid. It's like no one cares. Whatever happened back then is not truly my business or anyone's. So I am not truly going to be overly concerned with it. People make mistakes, but for some reason, Democrats can never let anybody get over a mistake. It's like, unless they're a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you can get caught basically involved in the worst shit you can imagine, and they'll cover for you and whatever, right? But if you're a Republican and you get caught doing even stupid minor everyday shit that people do because people are dumb, we are dumb creatures that constantly make mistakes, the Democrats will harp on that shit for 50 years. And the thing they don't seem to understand, since I'm ranting a little bit, guys, and I apologize, we can talk about other things if you guys want, because this is boring to me. But the thing the Democrats don't seem to understand is that their moral high ground bullshit is gone. They don't have the moral high ground. They are now the party of elite, corrupt, ultra-left weirdos. And they chose that. That's what they chose. They could, when I was a little kid growing up in Kentucky, near Harlan County, well, not near it, in it, but when I was a little kid growing up in Kentucky in Harlan County, and basically the only real industry there was coal mining, the Democrats were the ones that came and made sure if you voted for them, that them coal mines were going to be kept open and that workers were going to have better rights and conditions and pay, and while that might sound kind of commie, it just was the way it was, And I'm talking like 60s, 70s, my grandpa is, a mile deep into a coal mine, digging out coal, and for freaking not much of anything, but at least our Democratic representatives had our backs back then. Now they're the ones that shut the coal mines down. They're the ones that were telling all the coal miners in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia to learn the code and shit like that. And it's like the thing that Democrats are too stupid to realize is they are not the party of the people. They are the party of the kind of people that want to read to your kids for some reason, which is weird. And like that last rant I went off on, the first thing that some people need to realize is that LGBT shit people talk about, go ahead and take the L, the GB, and the B and cut that shit right off and let them go. Because they're not involved with this T and Q shit. Like, you never see a gay man being like, I'm talking about a normal gay man, maybe well-dressed. He might be a little flouncy or whatever, but just a gay man, a penis enjoyer, whatever we want to call him, right? Have you ever even heard of a normal gay dude wanting to go to a library and read for kids? No. They don't do that. They don't want to be around your kids. They want to either be around their boyfriend or at the club, looking for a hookup. They don't want to mess with your kids. They got no No business with that. So trying to latch onto the rest of the LGBT thing is so like weird, because it's like the other ones aren't involved in all that stuff and don't want to be. So yeah. Yeah, they have learned nothing and they just keep double down. Jeff, I hope that you're wrong, but part of me thinks that you're right. And Anon, God bless you too. Lord have mercy. And I hope you do all right. Yeah, Jeff, I try in my life to be as optimistic as I possibly can be about life, because I just try to put it all in God's hands and hope that it works out. You know what I mean? Maybe not the smartest thing, but that's kind of my big plan. That's my big plan. I'll just put it in God's hands, and if it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't work out, also awesome, because shit will have happened in accordance with the will of God. And if God is on your side, then no one can be against you, right? I mean, who can be against you if God is on your side? No one. In the conceit that who could win against you? No one can. If God is on your side, no one can beat you. So there you go. Just keep the faith, keep believing, and everything is going to work out. Of course, I'm not saying be passive. No, I mean, make sure you've got an ample supply of butter and ammunition for whichever type of firearm is your favorite. I mean, I've already let slip what mine is. I am a huge enjoyer of the 5.45 by 3.9 round. And the Chinese are about 3 seconds away from a complete economic and cultural collapse. I mean, they are the very definition of what we would call a paper tiger. Their equipment even is so bad that they sent some of their equipment to what was it, Azerbaijan and all that. And the people who got the Chinese equipment were complaining about how much it sucked. Don't quote Mao. Well, Mao at least was smart enough after killing half of the population. Well, no, he killed a lot of people, though, to go ahead and tell the Chinese to adopt a more free market capitalist society. But no, China has for hundreds of years had a cycle where they rise up, they unite, they do pretty good for a little while, and then they have a drought, which wipes out most of their grain production. And then the whole country falls apart into, rival warlords. And that has happened pretty much every 2 centuries for as long as Chinese history has written about it. Pretty much every 200 years. Now, will it happen this time because they have U.S. friends to send them wheat? Maybe not, but the point is their demographic makeup and everything like that is horrendous. It's like they have whole cities full of empty buildings. with no electricity, plumbing, elevators. The dam at the Yellow River is about to collapse, and all of their military equipment is like the Timu version of whatever it is, like they'll make a tank and it'll be all angular and cool looking, and you're like, oh man, that looks like the M1A1, right? But then in reality, it's a piece of shit, because that's how corruption works. It's called city planning. What it's called is, in China, they have this huge real estate scam where they have bought land, built real estate, and then everyone's selling it off like in a giant circle, hoping not to be the person to get caught owning it when their real estate bubble finally pops. And it is going to burst. And when it does, yeah, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. It's kind of like when people say, China's got more ships in their Navy than the U.S. does. And then you respond, yeah, but what's the tonnage? Because it's not even close. It's not even close. Hey, Nerdy Ogre, how you doing, bro? Yeah, China, you know who China goes to war with? China. That's it. That's the only people China ever go to war with and beat is China. Now, I did see an interesting story that apparently is true, where when China tried to invade Vietnam, the Vietnamese had all-female guerrilla fighter units, and some Vietnamese women captured a Chinese man who was considered to be very, very handsome, and they drug him way out in the middle of the jungle, right in the mountains, where they had built like a cabin. And their whole idea was they were just going to keep this guy as breeding stock, right? But then, the Chinese guy and one of the Vietnamese women actually started falling in love with each other. They fell in love. And, he got both of the Vietnamese women pregnant because that was the deal. But then at some point when they started to trust him, he escaped and got back to China. But then, it said how he kind of missed the Vietnamese woman for the whole rest of his life because he fell in love with her. And I kind of felt bad for the guy. It was like, that's sad, that's sad. That's just too bad, maybe he could have tried to find her and have her immigrate to China. I don't know how that would go, but it was pretty crazy. You saw that video, Shark? Yeah, it was just like, what in the hell? And according to the film they had, these Vietnamese girls were not bad-looking women. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was a bunch of purple-haired sweat cows trying to force, a normal person into getting involved with them. These were some pretty attractive women, and they're like, yeah, we're going to kidnap this Chinese guy who's considered to be incredibly attractive and have babies. And unfortunately, the poor Chinese man's never met his child, because China thought it'd be a good idea to invade Vietnam, and they like that guy says, they hit that level of F around, and then it directly led to the find out. And yeah, it turns out even after 15 or 20 years of the U.S. just straight up curb stomping them, bombing them, dropping chemicals on them, doing all the meanest shit that we could think of to them. We left. China invaded, got their asses whipped. So, you know, and unlike us, they never won battles. See, the thing with America is we won pretty much every battle in Vietnam and lost the war. Oh, yeah, no one's going to invade America. Can you imagine that? There's no part of America you could land troops without immediately being like just completely. We beat ourselves. Should pay money. We do. We send a lot of our business to Vietnam. We send a lot of tourists to Vietnam. They love us there. You know, they're doing great. Hell, the bar stools at the bar by my kitchen are made in Vietnam. And I have a half sister that lives in Vietnam from my biological dad. Apparently, when he was over there serving his duty, he impregnated a Vietnamese lady. Yeah, Nerdy Ogre 100%. Can you imagine somebody landing like in Texas near Corpus Christi? Within 15 minutes, you'd have 500,000 guys armed to the teeth. You know, it would be like, nah. And lost is a weird thing. I'm going to say this. T-Bird the Third. T-Bird, I like your name, T-Bird the Third. Did we lose, though? No, we didn't lose. Political bullshit back home forced us to pull out. But as far as losing, no, those assholes never beat us ever. I mean, if you read New and Gape's book about it, the first time they actually found a dead U.S. Marine, they shit themselves pretty much. They're like, there's no way we're beating these guys. I mean, you have to remember, even French soldiers talk about this, right? French soldiers carry about 1/10 of the weight a U.S. infantryman is expected to carry every day. You know, like in Afghanistan, when we were over there, every now and then they would assign French soldiers to U.S. units, and they loved it because they're like, yeah, you want to be with the Americans, you know? Like when we get ambushed, the French are trained to lay down and wait and call in backup, blah, blah, blah. American Marines and infantrymen, we're trained to go to them and whip their ass for it. And the French were just like freaked out by that. They're like, these freaking Americans are crazy. You know, they get ambushed by a superior force on top of a mountain. And do they take cover and wait for whatever? No, they go up the mountain and just start killing people. And yeah, that's what happened there. America, there's only one country ever that can beat America, and that's America. And usually it's politicians beating the army. Because if enough people protest and riot and bitch and complain, the politicians will always side with those people against the soldiers. Always, every time. And then the soldiers will be made out like they were the bad guys, even though no soldier ever in the history of the United States ever really got to choose what war they had to go fight. Like, when I got my orders to go to Iraq, that was not a optional situation there. It wasn't like First Sergeant came around and said, listen here, guys. It turns out they're going to send 3-7 infantry to Iraq, but if you want to opt out, you can just do that. Yeah, that didn't happen. So, as a matter of fact, what happened is everyone who was getting out of the military within 6 months had their separation dates canceled. So even though they should have been ETSing, they had to stay in. And boy, let me tell you, that pissed a few people off. But yeah, that's what happened. No one gets to choose. You just deal with it, you know? And Vietnam's the same way. It doesn't matter if you feel like it was a just war or not. The soldiers who went there didn't get to choose. They were told to. And they were betrayed by the government back home and by a bunch of hippy-dippy freaking communist scumbags that in a better country would have just been arrested or put up against a wall and shot. Yeah, stop loss when they're just like, hey, I know you're supposed to, get out of the army in the next month, but we're just going to go ahead and say no. So there is that. And they did that, I mean, luckily it didn't affect me because I still had like 2 years to go. But I did know guys that had like literally, a couple months. And it was like, yep, you're staying. And of course, we made fun of them. We shouldn't have, though, but we did. We made fun of them and was like, you're staying. Because, that's what you do in infantry. You revel in the pain of your brothers. Like, embrace the suck. Yeah, Vietnam is, for a supposedly communist country, one of the most awesome places in East Asia to visit. And they love Americans. They absolutely love Americans. It is so crazy. Like, you watch these videos where travelers go to Vietnam, like Americans, and I have seen mama sons trying to marry their daughters off to these guys and stuff. There was one guy, he always goes to the same restaurant every time he's in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. And the old lady who owns the restaurant refuses to allow him to pay for anything. You know what I mean? Now, this woman could have been planting bombs, cutting throats. God only knows what she was up to during the war. But hey, guess what, guys? The war is over. Well, everybody loves the American dollar when it's worth something. You know what I mean, Onion? Hopefully we can get it back to being worth something. I am super looking forward to whoever goes into Fort Knox. Hopefully being able to take cameras, because my whole life I've always been nosy about, is there actually gold in Fort Knox? And I went to Fort Knox for a while because when the Bradley was very first introduced to the Army, they created a new MOS called 11 Mike, which was mechanized. So I went in as an 11 X-ray, and then they chose to make me an 11 Mike. I could have been a Charlie or a Bravo. And then part of the training is after infantry school, you got sent to Fort Knox because you had to go through this like mini armor school thing. But yeah, it's not like they let us anywhere near that repository. Yeah, crisp American dollars. Yeah, Vietnam is our friend. And we have sided with Vietnam against China multiple times because the Chinese keep building islands and then screaming that everything within however many miles of their fake island is their territory. And we just sell right through that shit. And then they get mad and we're like, fuck off. What are you going to do? Nothing. That's what you're going to do. Nothing. because everyone in the whole world knows one thing. 11C. I feel so bad for 11Cs. You guys deserve, like, Jeff, if I ever meet you, I am buying you a beer just because you're an 11C. And I'll break my rule about Yingling, and actually you can have a Guinness or whatever you want, bro. But any of those assholes that had to hump that 120 around, yeah, those guys deserve all the accolades, man. Well, because the Chinese keep fucking with them. Like I said, the Chinese will go off the coast of Vietnam, dredge up a bunch of sand, create a fake island, claim it's part of China, then claim all the ocean around it, to the point that the Vietnamese don't have any ocean to fish in. The Vietnamese are like, what the are you doing, China? And then the Chinese are like, no, that's a new island. That's our land now. And of course, America's like, no, it ain't. We don't recognize it. And one thing the Chinese know, because everyone with a brain knows, is you can get away with effing around with America a lot of the time. But one thing you can never do is mess with one of our boats. If you mess with one of our boats, there will be swift retaliation. And probably way outside of, what you would expect. I mean, there's always the story of the North Koreans shooting artillery at a boat and hitting it. So the battleship that was in that fleet leveled the hill. Like where the artillery was, they removed the whole hillside. Just one shot. Because, I mean, where are they firing at that thing? 12 16-inch guns. 12 16-inch guns. Yeah. And then they just cruised on. And North Korea was just like, well, that sucked. Because, I mean, what are they going to do? You have some, everyone I've talked to that's actually went to Vietnam says if you're going to go to any East Asian country, Vietnam's the place to go. If you're in the city, if you're in Ho Chi Minh City or whatever, there's some areas you don't want to go because those are the areas where the people actually eat dogs. And if that's going to bother you, you don't want to go there, right? But the rest of the place is like party central, freaking, quarter beers and great food on every corner. It's actually pretty cheap to get a decent room in Vietnam. And the people love you. Everyone's nice. I mean, why wouldn't they love us? They fought us. And despite the fact that during that war, I think we killed over 1 million Vietnamese people for our loss of like 50,000, 58,000, whatever it was. But in the end, they just outlasted us. Oh, you're watching it. I'm telling you, listening to that guy, whatever his name is, talk, is just like, ugh. I mean, nails on chalkboard is like freaking Mozart compared to this guy talking. It's just like, you know what? I lack the words to even explain what that's like. That's hell is what that is. I mean, I always used to think hell would be like being in a really black, cold place, surrounded by nothing but screaming and welling. You really can't see anything. Maybe that's because I was raised Jewish and, the idea of Sheol is like, a separation from God, being in the outer darkness and all that. But, oh my God, chewing aluminum foil would be a delight compared to that guy. And it's so weird because he's so like, So first off, I asked them what kind of kinks they want, and blah, blah, blah. And they gave me this list, and it's got, like, I love when he mentions like how the one girl, her kink is being like an orc breeder. And it's like, and Double D points out, hey, there is a type of porn like that in real life, but it's not orcs, but it's like these people are telling on themselves pretty hardcore, you know what I mean? Like the whole we gotta change orcs because people think orcs are black people, and it's like, is there anything I don't like about Trump's doing so far? He's doing pretty good. Ask me again in a month. You know what I mean? Because shit can change. Shit can change quick. American politics is the way it is. But here is the thing. And this is something I've had to explain to people multiple times. So I explain it to you, Onion, because you seem like a nice enough guy, or at least you're being polite. Okay. The man who raised me, used to be Jewish papa before he also converted to Orthodoxy, when I did, was raised in Queens, New York, right across the street from Jamaica, Queens. So where 50 Cent got shot up, my pops was raised right across the street. Parkway, I think, is the street that separates, like, not completely horrible Queens from you could get shot coming out of a bodega, Queens, right? Well, you know who else was raised in Queens? Donald Trump. He was raised in Queens, right? And people will be like, his dad gave him $1 million. Well, I'll tell you what, if somebody gave me $1 million, could I turn it into billions of dollars? Probably not. But he did. And then people get mad. They're like, he's so rude. I just don't understand, why he talks the way he does. It's like, and I'm sitting here like, well, first off, the guy who raised me was from Queens, New York. So it's like, I'm used to him being like, where's your mother? Because, apparently they don't know how to say R's in Queens. So, he never asked where my mother is. He's always wanting to know where my mother is, and using like really attractive words like stoop and shit like that. Like, so when I was young, I was stooping this chick, and I'm just like, oh my God, shut up. I love you, Pops, but I don't want to hear any of your freaking Yiddish. Because it all, anyway, to get to the point, how do you think Trump's supposed to speak? He is a New Yorker, born and bred, came up from Queens to Manhattan, right? This is not a Southern gentleman. He is not going to speak to you like a, some Southern gentleman from Lexington, Kentucky that's all interested in the horse races and mint juleps and, that went to, a finishing class so that he could learn how to ballroom dance and shit. No. This is a guy who come up off the streets of New York and played hardball freaking real estate business, like taking no prisoners, fucking people up. And yet there are Americans out there who still cannot come to grips with the fact that that's who he is. Oh, you're a Kiwi? Oh, yeah. I'm surprised you can even talk to me, because a buddy of mine, well, actually a nephew too, but another guy I used to play D&D with, he went to New Zealand, married, had a kid. They gave him a job. He's been there forever now, so he's a citizen. But we can only talk during certain parts of the day, because where he is, it's so mountainous that the signals don't come out. Now, my nephew, who moved to New Zealand because there was nothing in America for him. And apparently New Zealand actually runs a thing where they try to get American men of a certain age to move to New Zealand. Moved there, married an Australian woman. She was a total just dirty ass butt whore. So he left her ass. And then a year or two later, he met a Filipino girl in New Zealand. And they got married. And now they got kids. And he lives in Christchurch. And he's been working for like 10 years on like a sheep farm, which he says there's lots of sheep farms in New Zealand. Now, you can tell me if that's true or not. I only have his word on it. But he moved over there when he was 20. They immediately assigned him a job on a sheep farm as a laborer. And that's been his whole life. That's just what he does. And honestly, I'm really happy for him because he wasn't wrong. There was nothing here for him but trouble, you know? I have a part of my family has problems. You know what I'm saying? Cheap viewers, no thank you. Harmon or Shadow, but I appreciate it. Yeah. I have a part of my family that is renowned for having some issues, and this poor kid was, born into that part of the family, and yeah, it was unfortunate, but somehow he got invited to move to New Zealand, and he did, and he loves it. Like, I'm not saying he thinks it's a better place to be than America. Well, it's better for him, for sure. I mean, but I mean, he's got his little Filipino wife and his kid, and he's a New Zealand citizen. So now he can take advantage of the healthcare and all that. And like, is he ever coming back to America? He told me to visit, maybe, but otherwise, nah. In his mind, he's a Kiwi now. He's not coming back. It is funny hearing him talk about Australians, though. Not a lot of love lost between him and the Australians. Lots of space, and it's great for yeah, man. No, see, here's the thing with New Zealand, right? If the people of New Zealand would dump their government and adopt the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, I would probably move to New Zealand to retire there. Because every picture I've ever seen of New Zealand, it is like one of the most beautiful places ever. And it seems like it's got such a beautiful climate. You can go up into the mountains. I love mountains. I grew up in the foothills of Kentucky, so I love the mountains. The people are really nice, etc. But I can't move to a country that can't guarantee me my first, second, third, on and on to 19th, whatever amendment rights, etc. I can't do it. And I know that the Christchurch shooting was a really bad thing, but taking everyone's guns because one kid is inspired by Spiral the Dragon to go on a spree is stupid. And I can't back that up. I can't support that. So yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem I have with all of Europe. It's like no one in the EU actually has any rights, and they seem to be okay with it. And the UK is even worse. The UK right now is as bad or worse than Stalinist Russia. Like, they're running around. Germany's running around arresting people for posting memes. The UK's doing that. It's like, what in the... Yeah, it's like this woke tyranny that they're all, ban the guns, control the speech. It's like, why would you ever want to live that way? That's not living, you know? No matter how happy you are in your country, bro, if you live in a country where you can go to jail for voicing an opinion, then you know, you're basically a slave. Probably more free than you because no one is here. Yeah, I just remember that your prime minister, the one lady, took everyone's guns. And it was like, no. Go to New Zealand and see where they filmed every fantasy movie. Well, because New Zealand is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's like one of the most beautiful places on the entire planet. The only place I would say is more beautiful than New Zealand is Eastern Kentucky. When you're standing on top of the mountains in Eastern Kentucky, looking down at the valley and all the forests and stuff, oh, my Rodinia. You know what I mean? You don't, because it's a Russian word and it doesn't translate into English. But what it means is the place where you feel like your soul has roots. You understand what I mean? And if you close your eyes and you think of the place where you were the happiest in your entire life, and that every time you think of it, it kind of makes you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, that's your Rodinia. Okay, who we got up here? Camille, One Eyes 11. What do I think about Ukraine? They're probably getting ready to lose everything east of the Don River, and it doesn't bother me a bit. I will proudly state, and I know a lot of people hate this, but I will proudly state that I have been a supporter of the Russian war effort since the day they crossed the border. The only thing I don't understand is why they're being so nice to Ukrainians. You know, Kiev right now could just be nothing but rubble. But for whatever reason, the Russians they're being slow and methodical and just wearing them down. And, you know, of course, like President Trump said, in the killing, first and foremost. And I want everyone to bear this in mind. Every person fighting in that war, whether they're Ukrainian or Russian, is my Orthodox Slavic brother. I'm an Orthodox Christian who is Slavic, and they both are too. Not only that, but technically, whether, you know, the Ukrainians want to admit it or not, most of them are just Russians. Because Ukraine never actually existed as an independent country throughout most of history, right? But let's see. I mean, the Ukraine issue is one of, yeah, I mean, he's trying to put an end to it because all these young boys dying on either side is horrible. And again, guys, I can say this with a little bit of authority since I am a combat veteran myself. I spent a year in Iraq, 3-7 infantry, cotton bellers by God. I understand what it is to be in a situation where people are taking shots at you, and it sucks. Fortunately, I was in a desert, and deserts tend to be flat, so you can see the enemy a long way away. Maltery, why do I support the Russians? Because Obama and USAID and Biden overthrowing the democratically elected Ukrainian leader during the Maidan coup and installing Zelensky, who is just a puppet of the U.S., specifically the alphabet guys, the CIA, the NSA, etc. And then Zelensky immediately talking shit about wanting to join NATO, put Russia in a position where their only option was invasion. That was it. Plus, people forget that between the Russian invasion, but after the installation of Zelensky, Zelensky had sent Ukrainian units into the Donbass region And they were killing civilians. Tens of thousands of Donbass citizens, civilians, were murdered by Ukrainian military forces for not agreeing with what they did, insofar as the overthrow of their government and having a CIA plant put in charge of the whole country, right? And that's why the Donbass and Luhansk have been like, no, fuck this. Oil could be a big part of it too. Plus, there is a lot of freaking material and shit like that in Ukraine that we would love to get our hands on. But the reality is, I'm saying this as an American, we have no business in Ukraine. None. This would be like if China or the Russians started building military bases and having coups with Canada and Mexico. I mean, and people, especially Americans, seem to forget how bad we freaked out when the Russians wanted to put a couple missiles in Cuba. And we were ready to go to World War III over that bullshit, right? But we, who promised the Russians that we would not move the line east, not even a little bit, broke that promise like 22 times. You know? Yeah, we're doing what we do. I agree. And here's the thing, too. When this war ends, the people who sold all the American weapons to the Ukrainians, who were dumb, they're going to want their money, and they're going to get it. And like me, will I benefit from it? No. But these Democratic congressmen that all own stock in Raytheon and shit like that, they're going to make millions. And the fact that a bunch of Orthodox Christian men died in muddy trenches, no one gives a shit. So you agree with the dictatorship? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes. He's saying Putin's a dictator, and I'm saying, yeah, I agree. As a matter of fact, I don't understand why they haven't just gone ahead and made Putin the czar. You know, Vladimir Putin, Tsar I of Russia. Sounds good to me. Let's bring the empire back. But then again, if you look behind me, you'll see I have the holy icon of Tsar Nicholas and his family, who were murdered by communists. So, yeah. I am Russian Orthodox, guys, by the way. I'm Rokor. Well, we give them our old beat up bullshit equipment, and then you know, we're going to charge them. Oh, who will be on the hook for the reconstruction? Halliburton will win that bid and charge Ukrainians billions of dollars. By the time this shit is over, whatever's left of Ukraine that's not part of Russia is going to be so far in debt to American corporations, it'll be a joke. Those guys will never pay the debt off. They will be paying on this debt for the next 500 years. It's really sick. And again, guys, don't forget, not counting the Russian casualties, the Ukrainians have lost close to 1 million young men. I mean, imagine that. 1 million young Christian men who should have been at work, taking care of their family, etc. But instead, they died in bloody trenches, getting hit with, you know, hyperbolic weapons from Russian artillery or whatever. And then the Russians have lost tons of guys too. So either way, it's Christians killing Christians, and both sides are brothers. They basically speak the same language. You know what I mean? This is basically like if the whole United States decide to invade Florida because something happened. You like thank you very much, bath salts. Actually, when I was a firefighter, I had to run on like 4 guys that did bath salts. crazy shit. Oh, yeah, Chinese companies are going to be in it. They're going to be doing the Belt and Road bullshit. It matters because it's our people. Well, I don't know which side you're talking about. It's a white genocide for sure. Yeah, yeah. This whole thing was set up to get, I mean, the congressmen in the United States even say it. The whole point is to drag the war on so as many Slavic Christians can die as possible. That's the goal. Now, wiping out a shit ton of Slavic Orthodox Christians, who does that benefit? And who voted for Zelensky, a 30-something-year-old? I could say a lot of bad things about him, Jewish guy. Are you telling me a country that's 90% Orthodox Christian actually elected a Jewish guy who used to pretend to be gay on TV? Does anybody believe that's even possible? I mean, because if you do, I own the Brooklyn Bridge and I'll let you have it for the low, low price of a couple $100,000. Yeah, he's a CIA plant. And he owns a mansion in Miami and he owns a house in Tel Aviv. So and he's sitting here talking about this war can never end, blah, blah, blah. Of course, because he's in America or Europe all the time, eating hors d'oeuvres and hanging out with French dignitaries and doing all this bullshit, while 19-year-old Ukrainians are freezing in a muddy trench and they can't get medical supplies or ammo. And they're facing the Russian army, which is mobilizing. I don't know if you guys have been keeping track, but so far this year, they've raised another almost 200,000 combat infantrymen. Their goal is 600,000 men, right? And you might also notice that very recently, instead of T-64s and older T-72s on the Russian side, you're seeing T-90s and shit. This means that Russia is at the point where they're like, yep, time to go ahead and just bulldoze this country off the face of the earth. So, yeah, the globalist elite benefits from the Christians dying. Yeah. I mean, in history, anytime you have a country that is predominantly Christian and tries to live by Christian values, there's always these outside forces, be they Marxists, mostly Marxists, who try to destroy that nation. Plus, people seem to forget that Karl Marx himself was a Satanist. He worshiped the devil, like straight up. Read about it. Look, don't even believe me. Look it up. He was hardcore into Mephistopheles and all that shit. Okay, chameleon eyes can't educate total ignorance. I don't know what that's got to do with anything. Got to replace all those North Korean soldiers. Yeah, the North Koreans, when they got the internet, they just stayed in their tents and masturbated because they'd never seen porn. 100% The Onion. And if you want to know deals that we don't back, it's like ask the Kurds about it. We've betrayed the Kurds at least 10 times. Trump and Putin are good friends, and I'm happy about that because the U.S. should drop out of NATO immediately and form an alliance with Russia and tell Europe to fuck itself. Yeah, Marx was something else. We know what Marx was, or at least his dad or grandpa. We all know. Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah, the Panama Papers list, Zelensky, that guy is garbage. He's trash. Every time you see him, he looks like a little rat. Reagan is just, hey, I hope not, because if you've ever watched China, Illinois, Reagan owns a time machine. And if he hears about all this, he is likely to come to me at some point and poop in my mouth. Because he did say he would poop in Steve's mouth if, Steve kept making fun of him. Go with Russia if you want. Well, I'm going with Russia, and they are going to win. And the United States trading and allying with Russia would be a power block that no one in the world could come close to. We would basically own all petrochem, everything. And we both have the biggest armies. I mean, most of Europe couldn't stop an invasion if they wanted to. Yep, we have been lying to them about the expansion of NATO for 50 years. Yeah, and Russia is very much a conservative, normal Christian country where, you don't have weirdos dressed up like demons from hell trying to influence your children, right? Like one of the first things that happened when Zelensky got put in charge of Ukraine is USAID started financing organizations whose whole goal was to destroy the Orthodox Church. But me as an Orthodox person, I'm supposed to support Ukraine. I mean, you can support and feel empathy for the Ukrainian soldiers that are needlessly dying and still understand that the government of Ukraine is entirely corrupt. And the sooner they get gone, better. The EU are a bunch of weird they are. I mean, that one guy crying because J.D. Vance said some stuff. Yeah, stop an invasion. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, run out there and wave your rainbow flag. See if that stops those T-90s. No, is the answer. Yeah. All of Europe's in the middle of a proxy war with Russia, but still completely dependent on Russian gas. Yeah, I agree with you, Chameleon. I think it will. I mean, I know if you watch, like, I sure you've probably watched V, right? He streams. There's a lot of Romanian streamers out there, and every one of them is pissed off about what happened in their election. They're all very pissed, right? And it's like trying to form this big power block where you have Western nations, but you also have Eastern nations. And these people don't understand that Eastern Europeans are not Western Europeans. Question for me, if we went from a republic to a dictatorship, how would you feel? We will eventually, Maltery. Monarchy is inevitable. Of course, there's a trick to that, but you think you love freedom, find out. The Onion, I don't even know what you're on about at this point. Yeah, I don't even know what the Onion's on about. The arrangement doesn't make sense. Their interests and economic situations are not aligned enough. Yeah. I mean, they're different countries. The only one of them doing even halfway decent right now is Poland. Well, and Hungary. And they're the ones that all the other freaking EU countries hate. They're the only ones doing good. And the thing with the EU, as the Brexit guys said, and they were right, is you can have an election in your home country, and then the people in Brussels can just basically tell you to go F yourself. And so at that point, you're not really your own, Oh, still on that DD. Oh, man. You see, I always watch Diversity and Dragon streams, and that one was hard. My brother, Hungar, like halfway through, he's like, F this, I'm going to bed. And he was out. He's just like, and he never does that. But you know what I'm saying? He was like, nope, not doing it. It is the worst thing ever. The rest of you guys who want to talk politics, if you want to see something so cringy that it'll make you just want to freaking choke on your own freaking intestines, go watch the latest Diversity and Dragons live stream. I mean, oh my God. It will mess with your brain. Like, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. And knowing that it exists and it's out there in the world will F with your entire worldview for the rest of your life. I warn you, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Try to conquer the world. Well, Onion, you're in New Zealand. You do understand one U.S. carrier group could conquer your whole country. There's nothing you could do. Literally nothing. One carrier group. We land a division of Marines in New Zealand. Guess what? You're done. You're over. I mean, no, you surrender and then you become part of the United States. If we were expansionistic, which we're not. But yeah, I don't think you try. That's such a stupid thing to say. No one's going to do it. Why would we want New Zealand? It's a beautiful country, but why would we want it? Sheep? You do understand New Zealand is smaller than almost every state. You get lost in 2 days. Okay, now I got to look something up. You're going to make me look something up. Okay. Let's look at this. Let's see what we can see. Okay. The New Zealand Defense Force, which is your entire military, has 14,000 people in it. Did you know that? 14,000. And that's including civilian members, reserve force, etc. 14,000. 14,000. 14,000. Wow. You think your 14,000 reservists, civilians, and whatever could stop like a serious country? I mean, you live in Hobbiton, man. Calm down. I mean, you can die from the cold. I lived in Alaska for a year. You think New Zealand's cold? You're going to stop all those good old boys from North Dakota and Minnesota? They look at New Zealand's cold and laugh. Also, we eat pigs. Huge fan. Like the Christmas recipe where you like take the pig roast and you brine it overnight in pickle brine and then roast it with potatoes and onions. Good stuff. Yeah, literally most of our states have National Guard and reservist units bigger than your entire military. So times your entire military by 50 plus. We fought. No, you haven't. You've been part of the Commonwealth. That's it. And one of your guys did win a lot of Victoria Crosses. He is a badass. But no, you were part of the Commonwealth. You threw in your part. Good for you. But the Australians were there. The South Africans were there. The Canadians were there. The British were there. And you know who especially was there that helped win all of these wars you're talking about? The United States. You know? Yeah, he's got to be trolling. He coming from a country with 14,000 people. That's like we can fit more people in one of our sports arenas. Yeah, it's like, what? But no one that I know of has ever invaded New Zealand. And yeah, you guys were part of the Commonwealth. You might still be. I don't know. Most people don't, though. There's this family who actually live in New Zealand, and they do reactions to like stuff in America. And it's like this man and his wife and all of his kids, and they're always like super like surprised, like when they compare the size of New Zealand to like Texas, and they realize that Texas is like 15 times bigger than New Zealand, with a population that just blows that whole place away. And 75 tanks in the whole country is like, really? We had more than that at Fort Stewart. That's one fort. I mean, you guys, it's like the rest of the world just doesn't understand. And not to be like a super dick here, but you exist because we don't take you over. Not because you stop us, but because we just don't do it. But if we wanted to do it, there'd be fuck all you can do about it. Good luck with a tank in New Zealand. There's flatland in New Zealand. Also, just so you know, Onion, we have a whole division, which is bigger than your entire military, of men who train up in the mountains in New York that are called the Mountain Division. That's what they do. That's all they do. They're infantrymen who do nothing but train in the mountains. So they can deal with all the cold. They can climb cliffs. They do all that shit. Look it up. So, yeah, you can't even hide in the mountains. And that's before we even start talking about SEAL teams and Rangers and Green Berets and just airborne, airborne infantrymen airdropping all over that whole freaking place. I mean, air superiority. Yeah, that's why I said one carrier group shows up, you're done. Nothing gets off the ground, and you'll just get cruise missiles until we get tired of doing it. And that's the thing. But you know what? Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. You're never getting invaded by the United States. We're not invading anybody. I will bet you this, to change the topic a little bit. Your Nana's better in the mountains than anyone you have. Yeah, I'm from Kentucky, so your Nana, if she didn't grow up in Appalachia, she doesn't know shit about the mountains. She'd end up getting ate by freaking cannibals from where I'm from. And economic resources. I mean, you rang. Exactly. We got air bases all over the place. C-130s start taking off. The next thing you know, your entire sky would be nothing but parachutes. And when they hit the ground, they would just wipe you all out. New Zealand, 5.2. Houston, Texas, 2.3. Yeah, you're a speed bump. You're not even close. So, but don't be upset. What are we going to shoot our missiles at? Every city, every radio station, every command and conquer, like everything. Cars on the streets. We have the technology where we can launch a Tomahawk missile and hit a car moving if we want to. I mean, it's like, no, but we'll eat all the sheep because, mutton, throw some mutton. Like maybe we'll celebrate Australia Day, we'll throw some mutton on the barbecue, crack open some beers, look around New Zealand and be like, this is a pretty place. And that'll be the end of that. I mean, and I even feel kind of, can't we just get along, right? I even feel kind of bad because it's like, the fact that I was born in America was just random happenstance. It was like I had no control over it, but damn, am I happy that I lucked out. Hi, I'm Putin betting. I don't know what that means. Nivajni Della, probably an Indian or Hindustan or some shit like that with that name. You have told America to get fucked before we will do it again. We have told, yet no one cares though. That's the problem. If New Zealand tells America to get fucked, America says, yeah, whatever. I don't think you understand, Onion, how insignificant you are. Yes, I'm in Orlando. But you know what? That's okay. As soon as my wife retires, I am going back to the mountains of Kentucky. I probably won't even have internet where I live. And I will just spend my time walking the mountains and hunting and playing in the snow and until I die. That is my goal. So yeah, see, look at that. Yeah. You don't want to kiss the bobs and see the jeans. Are you gonna make me serve you up some bitch lasagna? Is that what you're gonna do? Because I'm a blue-eyed white dragon and you're a dark magician. Anyway, yeah, I just actually quoted some PewDiePie at you. How's that make you feel? Probably makes you feel kind of weird, right? Like, why is this white guy quoting PewDiePie? Big Tower, don't even know what that means. Also, if you want to go into a gay club and put a bunch of penises in your mouth, guess who don't care? Do I think it's a good thing to do? No, I think it's sinful and you shouldn't do it. But I'm not going to stop you if that's like the thing you want to do. I mean, I'll say a prayer for you, Lord have mercy. Hopefully one day you'll wake up and realize that putting other men's penises in your mouth isn't the way to go. But if that doesn't happen, well, okay. I did my thing, It's all you can do. I mean, how does let me think about it. How does the Hindu faith feel about the whole same-sex thing? I don't really know. I mean, are they good with that? Is that something they're good with? Yeah, that's all you gotta do. Send 20 million North African guys from Europe to New Zealand, and that'd be the end of that. But yeah, I don't know. I do love that song though by PewDiePie. They do, and it's crazy because the Ganges is supposed to be like a holy river, but they have polluted it so much that like if you bathe in it, you run the risk of getting like typhus and like all these diseases. Plus, you might bump into a half burned corpse because they like to go there to burn, the bodies of the dead, and a lot of times those bodies don't fully burn, and they get just pushed into the river, and so it's terrible. Thank you for wishing me good luck. I mean, because I'm not going to lie on you, and I can use all the luck I can get. Don't knock it till you try it. Not going to knock it, nor will I try it. You do you, boo-boo. That's what I'm saying, man. All I can say is from my religious point of view, it's not a good thing to do. You shouldn't be doing it. But as a human being, if that's what you want to do, yeah, the river of poo. Shark. Better to be lucky than good. That's something that you and I can agree on. One of my favorite sayings from the 13th Warrior is when Bovine tells them that as often as not, luck will carry a man. And I was like, you know what? He's not wrong. You know, it just really depends. I mean, sometimes all you need is to be a little lucky and you'll be fine. I'm putting together these figures for a trench crusade, trench pilgrim army. But what I've done is I 3D printed a bunch of the 40K Maccabean Janissaries. And then I'm equipping them with like World War I weapons, you know, and backpacks and stuff like that. And then I'll paint them all up, and they'll be, all their faces will be painted silver because they wear, if I can get it to focus in on the face, the Maccabeans wear a death mask that's supposed to be a representation of Saint Maccabeus. So even though these are technically were made for Warhammer 40K, they make incredibly good trench pilgrims. Just because, I mean, they're already set up. They got their little hoods and stuff. All you got to do is glue some rifles and some, you know, swords and pistols and shit on them, and trench pilgrims. So the idea, I mean, the negative is they don't have the Capriati on, which makes your trench pilgrims immune to fear. But the positive is, well, they're cheaper because that Capriati costs like 7 points, right? And they look cool. And at the end of the day, how do I think? Here's what I think will happen, boss. I think that Trump will force Zelensky to cede everything east of Donbass or Don River to become either independent republics like the Donbass Republic and Luhansk Republic under the umbrella of Russia. And then also they're never joining NATO. No matter what Keir Starmer or the crybabies in Europe say, yeah, Ukraine will not be joining NATO. Trump has already said that. So there you go. I also would remind you, homeboy, that Ukraine is a fake country anyway. And Zelensky was put in charge of Ukraine by the CIA. So let's not be super patriotic for a fake country that's basically owned entirely by U.S. special intelligence groups and shit. I mean, the whole thing is a house of cards. Trench Crusade is woke, James. You know what? I looked into it. The people who run the Discord and shit are woke as hell. The guy who created it is a Christian conservative. And the guy who wrote the rules while being anti-Christian is a hardcore death metal dude and also conservative. Well, you don't know history. Yes, I do. That's the thing. The last time Ukraine existed as a country, it's when the Nazis made the Ukraine a country under Bandera. And that didn't work out. They got overrun by the Red Army. They're going to get overrun by the Red Army again. It's just a matter of time. But yes, if you go to their Discord, which is not run by the creators, it is a massive pile of shit, Shark. Like a massive pile. Ukraine was the start of Russia. Yeah, that means Ukraine is Russia. You understand what you're saying, right? The Kievan Rus, the fact that the capital Kiev was the capital of Russia before it was moved to Moscow, all you're saying is that the Ukrainia, which in the language just means the borderland, has always been Russian. So thank you. Good job. You played yourself, fool. But back to Shark, yeah. You know, another thing that's like that, Old School Essentials, the creator, you never really hear him talk shit about anything, right? Go on the Old School Essentials Discord. It is a freaking hive of scum and villainy. I would sell my soul. No, I am a slave to God and no one else. Oh, no, Arch is not totally wrong. He did a show and I've seen it. Yes, the people that the creators are allowing to be their like media handlers are absolute scumbags. You sold your soul. I can't sell my soul. It don't belong to me. Do you understand? My soul belongs to God. Doesn't belong to me. I can't sell other people's things. But Arch isn't totally wrong. Don't let me misstate it. Arch was not completely wrong. It's like the creator himself, who went to a Christian college, and when he was interviewed, had a crucifix hanging on the wall behind him. You know, seems like a completely normal kind of guy. But the people running like the media part of the whole deal are freaking maniacs. They're like the worst people ever. And then the guy who used to work for Games Workshop, the Finnish guy or whatever he is, yeah, he's basically Varg, Vicaris or whatever, except Finnish. You know, he thinks Christianity is lame and stupid and blah, blah, blah. But he votes conservative and yeah, so it's complicated. But yeah, the creator of Old School Essentials, you almost never hear him say anything about anything. He's just making a game, doing his thing, right? But I tell you what, the Discord for Old School Essentials is absolutely ass. It is terrible. I used to be on that Discord forever, and I didn't go on the Discord for, I guess, a couple weeks. I think I was on vacation or something. And I came back and went on to Discord, and it was under new management, and it was fucked up. Are you talking when Ukraine was part of the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth? I think you're talking about, yeah. You also have to remember that when Lenin and the communists and their allies killed the martyred family and destroyed Imperial Russia, a lot of places that had been part of Imperial Russia declared independence. Like Finland used to be the Archduchy of Finland and was part of Russia, the Russian Empire. Northern China, Mongolia, tons of places. When the communists pulled their shit, a lot of these places were like, nope, not dealing with it. And it's possible that Ukrainsky did that as well. Like they saw what the communists did and they're like, yep, we're not being a part of this bullshit. Get bent. And then the evil Soviets, because I would call the Soviet Union absolutely evil, invaded. They invaded Poland too. And almost won, except for, God favoring the Poles and allowing the Poles to find the Russian battle plans and act appropriately. Finland did not think it was part of Russia. It was literally the Archduchy of Russia and was part of the Empire of Russia for centuries. But when the communists took over, the Finns were like, yep, fuck this, we're out. Which is why the communists started the Winter War, guys, because they were basically, if they could have got Finland back, they would have, but they settled for some land. But ultimately, yeah, they would have loved to have been able to get Finland back. The Finns were too much of badasses. But even then, the Finns had to give up a shit ton of their land, which was unfortunate. And of course, the only country that helped the Finns was Germany. So there is that. The Germans were the ones that sent weapons and equipment and supplies to Finland during the Winter War and the continuance war. So they ended up having to give up a bunch of their land that was near to St. Petersburg. And for the longest time, Finland was basically a satellite of the Soviet Union. They basically did whatever the Soviets told them to do. Yeah, they fought hard too. I mean, Samu Haya killed how many people? Like 300 people in a month or some shit. That guy was a maniac, man. He was not taking any shit. If you were Russian and you were jerking around in Finland, feel bad for you, because that dude was putting rounds down range for real. But ultimately, even though the Russians lost 100,000 plus troops and who knows how many tanks and etc., it didn't matter, because Finland was a tiny country that just simply did not have the resources to fight that kind of war. And Russia did. And I shouldn't even call it Russia. I should call it the Soviet Union, because, because they destroyed Russia. The Soviet Union destroyed Russia. That was their plan, and that's what they did. When they killed the Tsar and his family, that was the death of Russia. Now, Vladimir Putin has brought Russia back. And it pisses a lot of the people off who were pro the communists. They're not happy, right? And a lot of them are Americans, like Schiff, etc. They hate the fact that Russia's back. They hate the fact that Russia is embracing Orthodox values. They hate the fact that Vladimir Putin has been rebuilding all of the destroyed cathedrals that Stalin and Lenin destroyed. They hate it. They hate it. Never thought an American would support Russia. Why? I was raised by a Russian man. My grandma's Russian. My great-grandma is Russian. They fled Russia when the freaking commies took over, because they were kulaks. They owned land and stuff. And if they had stayed in the Soviet Union, they would have been murdered like the millions of people who were murdered in the Holodomor. So I'm not American? That is, wow. Onion, are you Maori or something? Is English just not your first language? Or are you young, maybe inbred? Do you like live too close to like big power lines or something? Is there something wrong with you, man? Because everything you're saying is kind of stupid, you know? And it's like, again, I don't want to block you anybody or anything, but I mean, you are just saying stupid shit. And there's no reason for it. It's just dumb, you know? I'm not an American because my dad's family come from Russia. Green apple. My grandpa used to take green apples, cut them in half, and put them in the barrel, the big tub of moonshine, let soak overnight, and then dip them all off. And it gave the moonshine a little bit better of a flavor. That was kind of his thing. So I mean, there's a lot more details on here I could paint, and that I definitely will. But this is kind of what we got going on with our trench crusade. These are called artillery witches, because their whole deal is they can, by using their dark goetic magic, they can rip a portal open directly into hell, pull an artillery round out or a bomb, and then use their telekinetic energy to throw it down range. So yeah, your typical heretic list can take 2 of them as a choice. So, and a lot of people who've been playing 1.6 rules for this game are saying that these guys are like a must take for a heretic force, you know. Now these guys, I just put a base color on him, which is an OD color. His eye sockets are going to be full of blood. This is the New Antioch sniper. You can't see him because, you know, he's camouflage. The thing with them is they are basically sniper priests. So they rip their own eyes out, and they can hear the voice of God, and they rely on God to guide their shots. And it actually, you know, they can spin an action to aim, and basically if they do, they're not going to miss. But an even bigger thing is if they get wounded, which is blooded in this game, your opponent cannot spin the blooded token to make them less accurate, because they don't rely on their own eyes. They, like I said, they rely on the voice of God to guide their bullets. So they got big ass sniper rifles. I mean, a lot of stuff in this game is just kind of crazy. It's like, you can tell the artists that come up with this stuff, his imagination. One thing definitely I think is, I don't know if you guys know of the Polish artists that did all the really weird art, but I think that guy heavily influenced the artist who's responsible for a lot of this. I forget his name, damn it. He's well known though. Artist from Poland, yeah. Super well known. Okay, let me get that to sit in there. There we go. Okay, what's going on there? I think this needs to go up a little bit. Yep, just a little bit, like that. Boom. All right, that's not too bad. Here we've got a Janissary, and as you can see, he's got a fire shooter out here. Got a flamethrower. I'll use a little bit of I've got this elastic twine that I use when I do my shit. If you look right behind me, right up there, you'll notice I have a fleet of 28 millimeter ships, and the rigging and everything's done on them. I also use that to connect the flamethrower to the actual tank on the back. The connectors are right there, and it's pretty simple to do. I'm a huge fan. Bakinski, that might be his name. He painted all the nightmarish shit. Yeah, you can tell that he definitely, him and Geiger definitely influenced the artist of this game. Geiger, and Bakinski definitely, when it comes to anything having to do with like hell, because like the way they depict hell, it's like, it's crazy, but it's in the middle Jerusalem. So Jerusalem no longer exists. There is no Jerusalem. Now there's just seen some videos of the Red Army singing, Katusha, scream, which is wailing or screaming Katie. It's about a woman who misses her boyfriend, who she loves, but he's been called to the border to defend the homeland. And she wanders by the river where the steep hills are and the pear trees grow. And she, waits for her soldier to come home. That song was written like way back, like before World War I and stuff. But, of course, we know it now, but yeah, Katushka. But screaming Katie or wailing Katie or crying Katie, something like that. I mean, my Russian sucks, so, Why they say, do you speak Russian? Chocho. Chocho. A little bit. Mostly curse words. Like suka bliat. Ruski go up for your mom. Yeah, which is really bad. You don't want to translate what I just said. That's really bad. Lord have mercy. Anyway, it's about 4 a.m, and I've been streaming for 2.5 hours, so I'm getting off of here. Hey, Omanal, you have a great day at work, bro. I was so disturbed by Double D's live stream that I couldn't sleep. That weirdo on there talking about running a XXX D&D game just messed with me. It messed with me on like a psychic level, The Zis, there's like 3 versions of the Zis gun. When I used to play Flames of War, I fielded a Red God of War for my Soviet army. And the Zis was, I mean, you could, like you said, you could engage enemy tanks. You could use it for indirect artillery. It was just a very all-around thing. You'll have to check it out. It's the latest Diversity in Dragons thing. Green Apple, if you watch it all, it will get in your brain, and you will never unsee it. And then you and I can get together at some future date and freaking, lean on each other for support, because it's messed up. So, peace and love to all of you, even the guys who are arguing with me. Still peace and love to you guys too. And I will, if I didn't see you this one, I hope I'll see you the next one.